Good morning. Guys hear me okay? Hear me?
Morning.
Big echo, big echo. Can you hear me?
You guys?
I think so.
Okay, yeah, we're here.
Okay, excellent. Okay, thank you. There we go. Quick screen share test. Right there.
He said he's gonna have a chef club.
Is that good? You see us okay?
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Let's unshare. How do I do that? Unshare. There we go. How many people registered?
Registered.
How many you had so far? You know?
I'll check right now.
Okay, not a big deal. I sent it through the Culinary Association, and the first comment I got was, I have a friend who's coming to the States. What do they need to do? I'm like, okay. Look okay?
Fine. Change of background scenery. I don't see a closet anymore.
Ah, there you go. Yeah. A little office at Naya. Nice. Little jungle scene. Who is the artist here? Edwin Moro. All local art, just like the Radisson.
Nice. 285 registered.
Oh, smokes. I didn't think it would be that many, but, you know.
Maybe, several from a same restaurant or things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Yeah, I do know several restaurants in Kikaker had called me. And then I'm going out there Sunday to work with one or two of them. Looking at protocols and their setups and stuff. But I've sent them all the information that you guys have been putting out, and I think some of them have seen it already, and it's great. How do you guys reach the restaurants that are not a part of our, quote unquote industry circles? Just Facebook?
I think just Facebook.
Yeah. We just sent it via eBlast and Facebook.
Okay.
Last to who though?
eBlast to our stakeholders because we don't have a listing for restaurants.
Right, right.
We had still sent it and hoped that they would.
Okay.
But I think the Facebook post had a lot of shares as well.
Yeah, I imagine.
Hopefully that helped.
Oh,
Just day one.
excuse me?
We were only on day one.
No, I've been up late. Hey, Noriko Varsh, if you guys have that application and guidelines for gift shop sites and adventure centers, I haven't seen anything for that yet, except the reimagining things, the reimagining document, which I have.
The checklist and the template?
Yeah, all of that kind of stuff I would love to have. I'll include that in my last day, last half of the training with cleaning and sanitation.
I'm just gonna do some tweaks to it, what I did for the restaurant one, like, because we took out a lot of stuff. So
Okay,
I'll have that to you by this afternoon.
okay.
You must send me restaurants, sure.
I sent all of them, but I
You
need to change
change?
it, yeah. I think I'll put it down with the curry.
And send other restaurants, I don't think I'm send that one. And then the guidelines, I'm send. The guidelines on
The guidelines are based off of the reimagining.
wait, I'm gonna do one guideline document for tourism site
The one, the
or
national
or the
one,
national one.
okay, there's a section for that.
Yeah. So you get back your peeps down there,
Which one?
your peeps down there, your staff.
I get back two.
Oh, okay.
I get two.
The other two still at airport. I thought. Okay.
I still, I don't really have much work.
Yeah.
Even the two I come back. I got no lot of sites, so if I need help.
We flooded.
How many applications do you have right now?
Right now, like 5. Wow. And the thing is, like, they just would call me. And then, I don't know. And I know. When I did, yeah, like today, tomorrow, and Thursday, that don't throw off because I can't help. I can't. Like last night, I did 10 of them today. Yeah, she could probably help me. Maybe just last week, then, I think, but we made it do it. Yeah. I'll ask her.
Hello.
Hi. So, tonight I'm gonna try the home COVID test. They have the home COVID test now.
Who has a home COVID test?
I do.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They say that you're supposed to pour a glass of wine, and then you smell it.
Uh-huh.
You smell it, you're then supposed to drink it.
That sounds like a good home test.
Yeah, if you can smell it and you can taste it, then you know you.
Good to go.
Yeah, and then
Be
if you're
careful.
really not sure, if you're really not sure, you just repeat the test a couple times.
Yeah, just be careful because you might end up taking 2 bottles.
Yeah, I only bought one test, one bottle.
Okay. You have people on the chat already?
Oh, we want another one.
Okay.
Is that the time to start? Yeah, yes, sir.
So then, how many sites you have so far, Noriko?
Approved? Well, remember, I can't tell you sites because it's by companies.
Okay.
Audubon approved, Orange Gallery approved, Zoo approved, Reef CI, which is a coastal something approved.
Reefs, yeah. That one island,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And then the shrimp one, which is I'm waiting on the tour operator license.
James say get one home test for COVID with wine.
Right, the application form is up.
Website. I'll copy the link because then I might need to put it in here at some point.
It's under applications.
Restaurants, there you go. So they only have one template and that's it, right?
Well,
You
it's
will
an application because the checklist is there.
Uh-huh.
So I wanted to application checklist and template.
Okay.
Jim,
Yes.
if you notice in the application checklist and the template are one document. So just so you could explain, the first part of the checklist that they have to sign is the application checklist, and the template is a guide. Like, so if somebody else has a different plan already in place, they just have to print the first checklist and sign that and then submit their plan.
Right, make sure the signed one is included.
Correct.
Okay, yeah,
And Jim, a reminder that this has to be submitted as one document, not
Right.
15, 20 different attachments.
right, with all the photos involved in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see that code with it?
I'm gonna go over that, the last half of the last training session for restaurants. So I've already, I've done the screenshots and I have it loaded in the same order in which the document came to me, and I will review all of those things. It probably won't be enough for them to read everything, but they're gonna get a view, and then I think you guys can plug in the link. Those links really help.
Yeah.
Plug in the links to those when we cover that. So during the cleaning and sanitization, I'll cover that at the end. Chef Rob is going to help me today. So look out for Chef Rob, and then this afternoon I'll introduce him and then invite him in the room, and him and I have kind of a script, a casual script like Misty and I did when we did safe corridors.
Okay.
I'll ask a few questions and then just let him talk. He has my presentation already for today. I'm gonna call Jenny. I'm gonna call Jenny tomorrow and try to do the same thing. Jenny staying, Chef Jenny. I texted her too late last night. She said, "Jim, I'm tired. Left me alone."
How that they caught up at some party in some village in Orange Walk. They put an article that said from confirmation to quarantine. You feel to be careless one.
Sure.
Yeah, 9. Jim, we're going live.
Okay. Morning, Kenrick.
Morning, morning.
Looking all right? Good morning, everyone.
I'll have this until I get the other one.
I think BTV will eventually mute everyone, but for those who don't know, there's a chat icon on the bottom of your screen. Just hit chat and you'll see the chat board come up. Everybody will be muted and their videos will be off. During the presentation, there's over 200 people registered, so it would be very difficult to have everybody. But once people sign in, they often have their mic on and stuff. So no worries if you want to turn your mic off, turn your video. Like right now, I can see Juan Mata. I see you listening attentively there, Juan. And I see Katarina, Choco and Tizan from Cayo. Good morning, Carlos. Yeah, so we're just gonna wait.
Trying to put up the volume, like we usually have problem with the speakers. We don't have a speakers for this computer here.
Yeah. If I could ask everyone to mute their mics, look in the lower left-hand corner, you see your mic and be a mute there. Freddie Rodriguez, can you hear me okay? Or Valimir? All the way from La Milpa. Good morning. Get comfortable. Marisa. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, thanks, Freddie. Good morning, everyone. We're just waiting to get people in the room. Good morning, Mr. Azunica.
Morning.
Or is that Alicia?
Yep, that's correct. Morning.
Good morning. So we're just waiting a few minutes to get everybody in the room.
Good morning.
Good morning. People from all over, Kikaker, Toledo, Pine Creek. Good morning. Carlos, Orange Walk, Corozal, San Pedro, Cayo, Belize City. I've seen a lot of people. Placencia. All right. Omar's. We've got a lot to cover today, especially this afternoon. This afternoon, we're going to have Chef Rob from Hopkins, who's going to be tuning in, and he's going to be helping me this afternoon. This morning's session is really an introduction to gold standard health and safety protocols. So we're just going to get an industry overview, and we're going to answer the whys. We're going to answer, some of your questions. Again, you guys are going to be muted. Your videos are going to be off, and I'm going to go through this presentation that BTV has asked me to do, and hopefully give you and your teams just a lot more confidence when dealing with the challenges that we have in our community and we have with our visitors, and when it comes to health and safety, and especially in our food and beverage industry. So that's going to be our focus. But the introduction this morning is just going to give you that foundation to understand what's been happening and the work that BTV has been doing, and the rest of our hospitality industry, hotels, tour operators, tour guides, and just a lot of different areas. So I'm going to go ahead and start. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to screen share, and I'm going to show you a bunch of slides, a little PowerPoint presentation to get that orientation and introduction going. Okay, so bear with me. At the end of the presentation, there's going to be opportunities for questions. Now, I'm very, very lucky in this presentation. I know some of you are going to have a lot of questions. If you look and you maintain the chat on the right-hand side, you can ask questions. I would recommend you kind of wait till the end of the presentation. But BTV executive team, some of the designers of these protocols and the ones who are vetting, they've written a lot of this, but the ones who are vetting the applications for gold standards, they're in the room with us. They're going to be quiet, but they will be posting links. As you will see, there's a link there already. But you can download the guidelines, you can download the application. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to review the application, and I'm going to review the template, which is basically outline of your application submission. And BTV has really done a great job at kind of giving us a guide on how to fill out the application. So I'll go over that tomorrow after the cleaning and sanitization at the end of that presentation. So by tomorrow morning, we should be all done. And this afternoon, we will get into more specifics of some of the protocols, right? So good morning to everybody. I'm switching screen. I won't be able to see the chat board while I'm doing the presentation, because when I pull up my screen, I can't see anything but the presentation. So again, BTV is in the room with us. They're going to be able to answer any technical, structural, administrative type questions for gold standard certification. And then at the end, if you have any additional questions, I'm going to go back into the chat room, and hopefully I can help you with any industry, food and beverage, ServSafe, food handlers kind of questions. I can help you with that kind of stuff. So I'm going to screen share now. And we're going to start this presentation from the beginning. So if you haven't already seen the document, you can download this, and BTB is posting the link. I did send this link to the Culinary Association WhatsApp group. So you can get it there, or of course in this chat group right now. But it's a very standard document for all the other sectors of the tourism industry. The document has a very nice, appealing look to it, a very high standard. And ultimately, that's our goal for everything that we do. For those who don't know me, my name is Jim Scott. My real name is James, but everybody knows me as Jim, or Si Se Puede. I'm a certified hotel administrator and a certified departmental trainer through the American Hotel Lodging Educational Institute, AHLEI. And I've been doing a variety of training from frontline employees to general managers. And I'm also a co-owner of the 501 Hub in Belize City. So that business all on her own. She did marketing, and she is also a hospitality trainer. But again, a little bit of a Zoom housekeeping. Look at the chat board. You'll see questions. Keep in mind that our industry, our food and beverage industry, from north to south, east to west, the islands, we all have a multitude of experience. We all have a multitude and diverse background, culinary skills, some formal training, some not. We have a very diverse group in this room right now. And we have people who have just started out in the industry. We have aspiring chefs. We have aspiring restaurateurs. Keep in mind that some of you who have had formal training, and you can help me during the presentation. Very well, your serve safe and food handlers information very clearly. You can help add to this presentation just by helping people who may have questions. This is also a great network opportunity for some of you. You'll see that your registered names for the this webinar. You can send private chats to people, especially those who are engaged in the presentation and adding to the information. Again, those things are welcome. So if you have a question, don't think it's a dumb question, ask the question. There's a lot of people in the room that are gonna help me answer your questions. And then again, at the end, I'm gonna review some of those and go through more answers. So I welcome the idea of industry that have had good experience and formal training to add to this, especially with technical food and beverage type questions. Okay, so again, we have heads of department from BTB that are in the room, and they're listening in, and they're gonna answer BTB questions for you. And at the end, I'll pause this webinar and I'll get into the questions and answers. Our director of the Belize Tourist Board kind of sums up the resources that were utilized to put these guidelines together. And I'm very fortunate to have been a part of that with my business partner, to have assisted BTB with hospitality and restaurants from the beginning. And then, since BTB does not legally regulate the restaurant industry on a whole, unless you're attached to a hotel, BTB, after doing the hotels and tour operators and other sectors, start expanding these protocols, these guidelines into other sectors that can benefit from this. So if you look through here, we've got local support in here. We've got international organizations like CDC, AHLE, WHO, CARPHA, which is the Caribbean Public Health Agency, OSHA. These are part of the resources that were used to put these guidelines together. And of course, our Ministry of Health had to finally sign off on everything that was produced. So just giving you a little background of how these guidelines were put together. These guidelines are not meant to replace CERF. They're not meant to replace food handler certificate. We're not going to get into those nitty-gritty details because that's a whole training process in its own. So keep that in mind. It's very important as we open and reopen. We keep our food handlers. We keep our food handlers current. Okay, so keep that in mind. We are very lucky in our industry in food and beverage that a lot of the guidelines for COVID-19 are already covered in food handlers and ServSafe disciplines. So for those of you who are current and have, you know, always taking those courses, yeah, there's a lot of basic information that's already covered in areas. This is the table of contents in the guidelines that the link is there. There's a 9-point checklist we're going to go over right now. Monitoring, reporting, social distancing, all those things that we hear about, we're going to get into a little bit more in-depth look. Sanitation stations, technology, deployment. And listen, do not feel at any time, if you're a small business, technology, when it comes to COVID-19, could very well mean a chalkboard menu. That's technology. Why would you use a chalkboard? Well, if you don't want people touching a physical menu and then you having to sanitize it every time, you know, little things like that. Table setup, what are the new standards in our industry, you know, and setting up a table, doing delivery and takeout. So these are some of the things that we're, and I'm gonna go through. In the glossary of terms, CARFA, I told you already, we all know BTV, CARFA, Public Health Agency, CDC, the Centers of Disease Control, clusters. You know, these are things that we've been hearing about already, and our vocabulary should already be kind of up to scratch on a lot of these because Dr. Manzanero and his team, the National Oversight Committee and Ask the Experts, these are terms that they're using every day. So as a gold standard property or business, you will receive a certificate from BTV, issued from BTV. Again, I'm only helping with the training and delivering the orientation to the guidelines. Again, I welcome everyone to really participate, ask questions, and assist with answering the questions if you have you know, pertinent, accurate information. So here's the 9 points, right? And this is the foundation of the entire guidelines that make up the you know, all 50 pages, whatever it is. But the first thing you want to do, and again, don't think these guidelines or these requirements are too lofty. You've got to break it down to the size of your business, to the resources that you have available. But remember, we all have resources, right? And if we say to ourselves, we don't have resources, well, think about being resourceful and forget about what you don't have in terms of resources, about, you know, being resourceful and so forth. We're going to get into that. But whether you're a business owner, whether you're a manager, a supervisor, right away you need to appoint somebody who's going to be in charge of your new guidelines and protocols. Somebody has to take responsibility, and there really should be somebody on duty who is going to assume that leadership role and keep up on these standards. Implement and monitoring reporting. that means you're going to see through that some of these items in the checklist are attended to. You know, you've got the signage, you're doing temperature checks with staff and so forth. Ensure social distancing protocols. Again, we're going to get into the specifics of that. You know, looking at your lobby area or your entrances, areas in your restaurant that may have people waiting in line to pay their bills. And again, signage is really just a reminder. And I like to tell the story about going to a grocery store not too long ago. I got out of my vehicle and, you know, I didn't see a sign, but the guy next to me who pulled up the same time, he looked at me and he put his hand on his face like this. And he was just telling me that I didn't have on my mask. I was driving in my vehicle by myself and I didn't have on my mask. He put his hand up like this, gave him the thumbs up. I turned around, got my mask out of the vehicle. So signage is kind of the same thing, is having those signs and attractive signs is a good reminder. So social distancing and stuff is important, and you may need to change some things within your restaurant when it comes to your tables and service areas. Implementing enhanced cleaning and sanitation procedures. And again, a lot of these things are common knowledge and study points for people in food and beverage like yourselves. And a lot of this is going to be common sense. But now we've added the element of PPEs and, you know, when is the appropriate time to wear gloves? All of those kind of questions and answers we're going to get into. Developing a response plan. You know, what happens if one of your staff members gets sick while they're at work? You know, what are you going to do? We need to think about that. We need to talk about that. We need to start making plans for the what if. What happens if a customer walks in and, you know, they're coughing, they're sneezing, you know, and you may know them. Maybe they're a smoker and they cough all the time. You know, but at the same time, they shouldn't be in your restaurant. What do? You know, how do you politely and professionally ask them or tell them, you know, I'm sorry with that cough, or, you know, your allergy type symptoms, you shouldn't be here and we can't allow you. You know, how do we handle that? We're going to discuss those kind of things as we move through with our response plan. Ensure a clear and consistent communications. I'm a huge advocate for positivity and not evoking fear in people. So I think if we have open communications, if we're telling the story the right way, I think our staff and our customers are going to have a lot more confidence. And ultimately, that's what we want. We want to make sure everybody is operating safely. The number one reason BTB has implemented these guidelines is safety for you, safety for me, safety for your customers. So really, really important to have clear, consistent communication. That's in your signage, that's in your message, maybe your social media. It could be on your chalkboard, whatever. Installing sanitation stations. Now in food and beverage, especially back of house, you should have a designated sink for your staff. But you should also have some type of sanitation areas for your customers as well. Of course, the bathroom is one of those, but maybe you want to put a little hand sanitizer in a very conspicuous area in your restaurant, right? So having the hand sanitizer is really important. I know a lot of people, they have their hand sanitizers, out there, but they also have a lotion as well. We'll get into some of the specifics of hand sanitizers not being that healthy for your skin, but you should put some of those replacement oils, and a really good hand lotion is a good idea too. I mentioned deploying technology that helps you. The technology, basically, you just want to reduce, you know, the things we have to touch. So we'll get into more specifics with that. And then the ninth point on the checklist, consistent training. And it could be that pre-meeting before a shift, having that 10, 15-minute conversation about service today, making sure everybody's wearing their mask the right way. You know, do we have gloves? Have we prepped? All of those kind of things. And then, you know, looking at more technical areas of training, a little bit more in-depth information than maybe what I've did over the next couple of days. But we'll get into those more specifics later on. Again, our goal is to build that confidence in your restaurant team, your customers, and your business partners. And that's through education, protocols, and communications, right? And I've mentioned all of those in those 9 checkpoints, right? Today, we're gonna have a better understanding of the 9-point checklist and gold standards, realizing the need for improved standards in our industry. We're gonna ask the questions, why? Why are we doing this? You know, what are my benefits? What are my costs? All of those questions. Greater degree of knowledge and safeguarding from COVID-19 and other foodborne diseases and stuff like that. And for those who have taken ServSafe and food handlers know that there are other germs, pathogens that we're susceptible for. So by taking these measures, right, we're essentially going to safeguard ourselves from other risks as well. And then optically meaning what you see and what our customers see. That's going to garnish a lot more confidence in them as well. So as I said earlier, just to give you a little picture of a beautiful Tropicare plane, a BTB has been involved in putting these guidelines out for several different areas. Aviation, domestic aviation, and of course, you know, airlines like Maya Island Air and Tropic, they have international guidelines and standards that they have to attend to. But BTB wanted to make sure aviation was in line with what was happening throughout the country. And if you look here, these are the covers on the left for tour operator guidelines, and those were done in June. And then over on the right-hand side, you have hotels and restaurants, right? And of course, the restaurants were the restaurants that were in the hotels. So they were really focused on those full-service hotels, resorts around the country to kind of get those guidelines. Now, for this training session, the restaurant section has been expanded a bit more. And there was contribution by Chef Jenny Stain and Chef Rob in helping change what was already developed and include a little bit more detail in our restaurant standards. Taxi drivers were also included in the training, starting with the international airport. And of course, here we are, safety protocols for car rentals as well. Agencies were involved in some of the training in the past. So all of this has been taking place, and it goes back from starting in May. And then, you know, the protocols being developed and the number of different people who kind of helped with putting those guidelines together, BTIA, BHA, and, you know, then all the respective areas, tour operators. So people from the industry, just like this training and these guidelines, there were professional people with the experience and the formal training who have contributed to putting these together. So they weren't just copied somewhere and pasted, and, you know, BTB just didn't invent these. There really was a multitude of resources and people involved. And again, the 9-point check, I put this up there because I go through it step by step, right? Like I said, the number one reason we're doing this is for your safety, for my safety, for our customer safety, and all those people who support us, you know, all of our suppliers and so forth. So this kind of encompasses all of that. Again, with food and beverage, we're so lucky because there were already standards before COVID-19. There were already sanitation and hygiene standards that are already incorporated. For those who've been doing this a long time, there isn't going to be a whole lot of information, with the exception of the social distancing and signage and reminders and, you know, the overall guidelines and requirements to elevate our standard to make sure we're doing the right things when it comes to safety and right. So the point number one in that checklist: assigning a gold standard manager. And again, if you own the restaurant and you're there every single day and you're working, you're probably going to be the program manager. And you've got to help develop this plan, as small as it may be or as big as it may be, depending on the size of your business, right? And then you have to make sure that your employees are signed in on this. They understand your new standard operating procedures, right? And then you need to spot check it, right? Point of contact, it's either going to be you or you're going to have a supervisor or a manager who is going to do that, right? In some businesses I know around the industry, if they were large enough, they have a full-time person doing this. That's not realistic for most of our businesses. One thing I know about Belize and our businesses, our small office, our micro-sized businesses, our small businesses, medium-sized, they make up 70% of our GDP and 70% of our employment. It's those small
Well, I don't know, babe.
It's those small it's those small business leaders. Every once in a while, someone signs on and their mic comes on. So, anyways, it's those small businesses that really make up, you know, our economy. And you know, don't feel like these standards are going to be too daunting that you can't achieve them. If you take it step by step, we can be resourceful and we can break it down. Somebody has to be engaged in the knowledge and the sharing of knowledge, in the supervision of the protocols, and making sure that, you know, we're all about. Step number one: who's in charge of this program? Who is your program, your gold standard program manager, right? Number two, implementing and monitoring, reporting. The restaurant must implement a process to conduct non-invasive temperature checks and health checks, right? Now, if, you know, wherever you're from, wherever you've lived, everybody in industry, not just food and beverage, is doing things a little different. I know that Builders Hardware in Belmopan, they had a sanitation station outside, and before you walk in, they do a temperature check. If someone had an elevated temperature, you're not going into Builders Hardware. Nobody told Builders Hardware they had to do that, right? Nobody told them. They don't have a gold standard. They did it on their own. The ownership of that business took the initiative, did the research, implemented calls, and everybody followed them. You know, wearing masks, all of that stuff. Hand sanitizer at the checkout counter. So again, you don't have to do temperature checks for your customers, but if you want to take your standard higher than this, that's welcome. But the gold standard does require us to do it for our employees, right? And if you do find somebody before they walk in to the restaurant, you do find somebody who does have a temperature greater than 100 degrees, you probably should not let them in. Or if you do have a place for them to isolate for a while, you may have them sit there. Your vendors and suppliers, we all know when the guy shows up with the vegetables or the meat or you know, quality Caribbean chicken shows up, they normally walk right into your kitchen area and they, you know, they weigh it and, you know, they throw it in your freezer for you. Some of them do that. Well, you know, you may need to change that operation. You may need to put a table outside that room. Right now, we don't know who has COVID-19, and the majority of people who are carrying it don't even know it. They have no signs or symptoms. They're asymptomatic. So having them around you know, you and having them around, you know, closed areas like your kitchen, your storeroom, you probably, you know, want to be very careful. And you should be doing temperature checks with them as well before they enter your premises. If customers come in and they're symptomatic, again, I talked about that. If you want to do temperature checks, that's okay, but it's not a requirement. But again, if somebody walks into my restaurant and they're coughing and they're sneezing, you know, I'm going to have to take that initiative and say, you know, I'm really sorry. You know, you've got these cold and flu type symptoms. Serve you, you know, apologize and say, listen, you know, if you go wait outside, I can get something to you and I can deliver it to your car. But, you know, right now you're not welcome. Some of the most common symptoms, you know, we'll get into those later on. Now, if you do suspect one of your staff members has COVID-19, there are resources in the guidelines for the Ministry of Health or 0800 MOH care. Dial that number and you should get somebody. And then this map shows all the district numbers to the local public health people. That's inside your guide. Step number 3, ensure social distancing. If you have the type of restaurant where people are waiting to get in, you want to just put some little markers, even if it's just an X on the floor. But later on, I'll show you some examples. But your tables should be spaced out, right? But think about how people are moving through your restaurant and try to avoid them kind of breaking that 6 feet barrier, 2 meters space for people, right? Queues or lines, make sure that the lines are kind of managed, right? And clearly mark them. Continuing seating management, we'll get into more details. I'll show you some examples of what you can do. Some people have moved tables and chairs, but some people don't have anywhere to store those tables and chairs. I know some restaurants, because they want to, they'll leave the tables there. They'll just put a reserve sign on the table. Just leave that table. Nobody's going to sit there. It helps to, right? Just an example. For events, if you're someone who's hosting an event that's a legal size, you know, you have the space in your restaurant, making sure you think about the signage, how you set up, whoever you're doing the event for, you're going to want to make sure you talk about these protocols. Again, when people see you doing these things, they're going to know that you're trying to ensure their safety. Huge benefit. Again, the reason why. Here's a restaurateur. You can see that he's wearing a mask. 2, the tables are properly spaced out. It's open air. The doors are open, so nobody has to touch a doorknob and enter the room. It's just thoughts like that. Now, if it's the mosquito season where you live, yeah, you know, I'm going to shut the screen door for sure. If it's AC, door. But, you know, think about what you can do to avoid touching, to provide another element of safety for your people. Number 4, enhance cleaning and sanitation. Again, we're very lucky in our industry. We should be already attaining these standards with cleanliness, disinfecting, cleaning, etc. Nothing has really changed there except the degree and the quality and the standard in which we should be cleaning. Meaning, normally in a restaurant, what do we do when a guest leaves? We clean the table, we wipe it down, and you know, we reset it. No, we need to clean it with a soap water, which is the industry standard already, but we shouldn't just be thinking about the table. We should be thinking, you know, did they touch the chair? Are there armrests on the chair? You know, we need to clean those. Did they get up and, you know, do restaurant, go to the restroom or whatever? Did they touch the back of the chair? You should clean the entire chair, right? It's a 2 or 3 step process as well. Cleaning, making sure we get rid of the debris, and then disinfecting, right? So it's a little bit more. And again, a lot of these things were standards before. We now just increase it. Public areas, same thing. Maybe if we have a lot of people going through our restaurant, we think about doing the public cleaning a little bit more, right? So little things like that we're going to discuss in more detail. Front of house, tables, chairs, high touch areas, you know, credit card machines, all of that kind of stuff. Back of house areas. Again, back of house, you know, I'm going to assume that all of us have very high cleaning standards. I have been into many kitchens throughout the country, and I wonder how, you know, more people don't get sick. But we've got to make sure that we have a heightened sense of cleaning. And if you're, you know, disinfecting and cleaning at night, in the morning, you don't know what they're running around in the kitchen. You need to clean again before you start your day and your preparations and all of that, right? So there are some basic things that we need to think about. All the high touch areas like doorknobs, handles, light switches, railings, staircases, restrooms, all of that kind of stuff is part of that enhanced cleaning and sanitation. And then making sure that employees' personal hygiene is practiced. Now, we always talk about self-grooming and body odor and not wearing too much siete machos, things like that, right? But now is a time to have a heightened sense of personal hygiene for our employees. And remember, our customers are watching us. So we've got to make sure that if I just bus some tables, I need to make sure that I'm washing my hands, obviously. Okay, yeah, that's logical, Jim. I understand that. How can I do that where it would be more visible to my customers? Why? Because somebody just saw me bust some dirty dishes, and somebody else is gonna, I may be turning around and serving, you know, food, ready to eat food. I need to be able to make sure that they see me, that I've taken those extra seconds to wash my hands before I'm doing other jobs. So that's the optics. That's the thing. Guests are watching that. You know, I could tell you stories because I do this type of training and serve safe and so forth. You know, I'm not the kind of guy that's going to sit there and criticize if it's somebody who I know, or it's somebody who would receive constructive criticism. I might send them a little note, but I certainly wouldn't want to embarrass anyone. But I've got a lot of stories I'll share with you on things that I observe that you know you really need to think about. And I don't think I'm the average customer. I'm certainly not going to, you know, write a TripAdvisor about anyone. But I really do think that there are more and more people that care about that and that are more alert. And, you know, the message that we're sending them by the actions that we have are really, really important. So we have to be deliberate. We have to be cognizant of the sense that our customers are watching us now, and they have a heightened sense of safety and security that's important to them, right? So kind of went on that. I'm going to go off on that again later on. Number 5, a response plan, you know, just allowing customers from entering that are visibly ill. Contact details for the program manager. You know, the program manager may not be there at the time, but, you know, he's got to be available. Transport information. You know, what if a staff member comes to work sick? You're not going to just tell them, get by our bicycle and haal backside. No, man. You know, maybe you have a taxi driver who has been trained. Maybe that person can take them to the health clinic. You just be a part of their personal safety and wellness as well. Yeah, you don't want them coming to work, but let's make sure we looked after our own people as well, right? You're going to be safe as long as they're socially distanced, as long as everybody's wearing a mask. You know, there are some other steps I'll get into about N95 masks and, you know, having the fancy N95 mask as opposed to a cloth mask. You know, how you can enhance a cloth mask by making sure the molders, you know, you're putting in a coffee filter inside, little things like that we'll discuss. But if somebody's visibly sick and you have N95 mask, give them the N95 mask, because that's going to keep you safer and helping them not sending germs out all over. So little things like that we're going to talk about later on. You know, you want to make sure that who's ever there, you're protecting them as well. So the rapid plan, really important. Make sure we attend to that. Again, you know, your public health numbers, that's got to be a part of your plan. Ensure consistent communications with employees, your community. You know, I talked about small businesses in our country and the huge impact that we have collectively for employment and adding to the economy and taxes. But you guys are leaders in your community. You're taking the time right now and you're maybe learning some new things and you're going to implement some new things. Get your community involved. Right now we're having massive spread. I cannot promote enough what you can do on your knowledge and experience to help your community, to help your families. Because if we don't contain this, it's only going to get worse. And based on the reports from this weekend, we know it's going to get worse. And I don't know, I haven't met anyone thus far that hasn't known somebody who has been really sick, right? And the reality is the majority of people who have COVID-19 don't know it. But if they infect me and for some reason I end up getting sick from it, you just don't know how your body is going to react. So it's really important that we take it serious. Let people know that you're taking these courses. Let people know that you have these new safety protocols. Promote it, because you know it'll make customers feel safer that they're going to go to your restaurant, that you're doing these things. And if they see it and they hear it, they're going to share that with other people and say, you know, I had a really good experience. I still had that great personality waiter that I always enjoyed, but man, they were doing things a little different and it made me feel safer, you know? So get involved in that, be a leader in your community and your home, right? Communicate the protocols, the roles and responsibilities, and of course, what's the sequence? What's the new standard of people, you know, coming in to their to your restaurant, right? Customer communications are as well. So having the right message, their experience in your restaurant, right? Especially your safety protocols. Electronic communications, again, Facebook, Instagram, whatever you use to get the message out, maybe local advertising as well. You know, putting signs like this up, we're going to get into more details of washing our hands, and I'm going to do a little demonstration later on with hand washing. Being creative, I'm not real nuts about those signs that say you must wear a mask. But you know, artwork like this, it's kind of really cool. We all have local artists, or you can go on Pinterest or Google, you know, creative mask or creative hand washing, creative social distancing. You know, have fun with it. You know, just all you're doing is reminding people. We already know that mask wearing is law. It's mandatory. But let's make sure we're wearing it. Nose or chin wearing, mask wearing sessions, right? Install sanitation stations. The hotel must ensure that. You know, your bathroom has a sink. It has, you know, proper soap. It has single-use paper or paper you can tear off. You know, you're good to go. And back of house should have a designated sink for hand sanitizing and washing hands anyways. That should already be a standard, right? You'll see in a lot of restaurants now, this is kind of a fancier one, sure. Eat clean. They're just promoting the fact that they've got a sink now inside their little restaurant, right? So make sure you have that available. And if you don't have the wash basin, have the alcohol-based hand sanitizer, right? Properties that are using technology. I know a lot of properties that have their menus on Facebook. Some people are using QR codes, stuff like that, and it's electronic. You know, all of us have cell phone. We could download it, we could look at it, then we could order you know, or if you know your customers, WhatsApp it to them. You take a picture on on your WhatsApp and WhatsApp them the menu, you know, that way they don't have to touch the menu. Some people may ask you for that, or ask you to open the menu and they'll take a picture of it and then they'll go sit down. Make it available for them. Think about, that's technology, right? And it's available to almost all of us. You know, having your menu on a chalkboard. They come in, they take a picture of it, they go sit down, they read the menu because maybe they can't see it from where they're sitting. You know, put it outside your restaurant, you know, like the old way. Tea dinner tea. We still don't have a lot of things contactless, but you know, here's a picture of a chalkboard. You know, put your menu on the chalkboard. Credit card. If you're touching somebody's card, you may have some type of you know, sanitation wipe for the credit card. Those are all ideas. Having a laminated menu. Laminated menus are okay. You just have to make sure you're cleaning those menus after every use, right? And then the last on the checklist is so important. Now, hopefully a lot of your staff are in this training, but if they're not, then you are now the expert. These training sessions, these 3 training sessions are going to be on the BTB website, and BTB will give us the link, but you just look for restaurant gold standard training recordings or videos, and I'm sure it's going to pop up. It's so important for you to do training. If you're established or you already have, you're inviting some of your staff back to work, make sure they understand the new protocols, make sure they understand your new policies, make sure they understand that we need to build confidence in everybody. And, you know, the old way of coming to work and, you know, kiss on the cheek and hug, if we don't live in the same house, we should not be doing that, right? The handshakes, done. Elbow bumps, you know, acceptable, but not staying in you know, too close to anyone right now is so important, right? We'll get into some of the specifics of back of house, especially in the kitchen and what we do there. But I'm gonna break and go back into the chat room, and we're gonna have a and I'll get you for the other trainings. So we have another training this afternoon. I think this says 2 o'clock, but I think it's actually 1 o'clock. Let me just double check. I have this, I put 2 o'clock in there, but I think it's 1 o'clock. Yeah, it is 1 o'clock. Sorry about that. This says 2 o'clock. It should be 1 o'clock. We're gonna have our second webinar today. And that'll be on more detailed enhanced safety protocols. I just touched on a few things this morning, right? And then tomorrow morning, and Chef Rob's gonna be with us this afternoon. So really important. And then tomorrow morning, we're gonna do cleaning and sanitation. And then I'm gonna break down the application for you, the end of tomorrow morning, right? We'll go through the application and some of the details. And very important, BT does not want that application on paper. They want it electronically. So if you don't have a computer, if you don't have email and so forth, maybe there's one near you, or a little internet or an internet cafe or something where someone there can help you, you know, take scans of your plan and your application and get that in. But this has kind of been the intro to the tourism health and safety protocols. And I'm going to break now and get you guys into the room. Okay, I don't see Abner, good to see you again. Any questions in here? Food handlers' cards need updated for the entire team, but we need to have the class brought here. Public health is too busy. I did hear from the food and beverage manager in Placencia, and they've been in contact with public health, and they said everything is kind of on hold right now. But what I would encourage you is to stay engaged with your public health officials, and make sure that you know when it's going to be available. Right now, if you're open, you're okay, right? But at some point, they're going to make the announcement, and we just need to be prepared when they do, and then slowly we get our staff certified again. Somebody here from Crepes and Churros, Street Vendors Association, we've been heavy hit by the government regulations. Yes, you have. As we are not allowed to open. Yeah, it's really made our own set of guidelines. Good job. But the guidelines were rejected. I cannot personally, from Crepes and Churros, I can't personally help you. I'm not on the National Oversight Committee. I have not acted as an advocate with the NOC, but I have worked with BTB, and I know the executives at BTB are reading your concerns. So BTB does have a representative on the NOC, right? And you know, I do agree. I think this is a great opportunity when it comes to food handlers. I think this is a great opportunity for us to kind of up our game and not to put public health down at all. My first degree was in public health. I worked with the Ministry of Health back in the 80s. But I think for our industry, the Serve Safe training it lasts a year, and I think that should be a new standard. And I'm sure public health could get people certified to train, and we could be doing it on webinars, and maybe it's something that we as a food and beverage industry or restaurant association, the Culinary Arts Association, that we could lobby for collectively. I know Chef Rob is a Serve Safe trainer. Chef Bob, who used to live in Belize, I know he'll be moving back. He's a professor of culinary arts. He comes and does training. I've done training. My partner Lorena has done Serve Safe training. So there are people here that can do the training, and we possibly could advocate for that standard, and that certification is good for a year as well. And like you said, it could be on Zoom. I'm personally in touch with our health and safety persons, but she is told likely won't be until the new year. Okay, thanks, Tracy Paul. That's interesting news. I know that if people want Serve Safe training, let us know. There are a couple of us that are certified to do it. I think what's really important is to make sure that Serve Safe certification would be recognized by our Ministry of Health. Right now it is not, so we don't want to circumvent any of that. My question, your help was in regards to helping the tweet, the guideline to tweet the guidelines to create. Oh, okay. Someone is asking me if I could tweak their guidelines. Yeah, if I'll type my email address to you, and you can send me your guidelines, and I can help you tweak them. I'm typing my. Let me send it to everyone so you do have it. Let's see. So my email is james.scottjva@gmail.com, and there it is right there. So yes, I would gladly take a look at your guidelines and see if I can help you. Okay, will you just confirm for us, we have a full service lodge, so we have a dining room restaurant that serves mostly guests. now. And again, walk-ins, once the gold standard of lodge, we do need gold standard. No, Nancy, if you have a resort and your resort is gold standard, you obviously would have already covered restaurants, so you don't need a resort or hotel gold standard and a restaurant. You just need the hotel. That encompasses everything, as long as it's one. Now, if you're a hotel that leases their restaurant out and it's not a part of the hotel from a business standpoint, you probably want to make sure they get certified too. But if it's your restaurant, it's covered under the gold standard for hotels, right? Do all customers need to be logged upon arrival? No, right now, no, they don't need to be logged. They should right now, I believe, still need reservations. One of, Darren, one of the standards within our industry, especially front of house, is to have a log where everybody sits, right? So like most POS systems, or you know, we have our standards with our chit, how we write the chit, what table they're at, and so forth. So your restaurant already has your tables numbered. You should log down who sits at those tables. So that's normal operating procedures already. So you want to make sure you do have a seating log in your restaurant. And temperature checks, that's your option when it comes to your customers. We'll get into that a little bit more detail as we move through this afternoon. We do it at the hotel, but I'm asking about other restaurants. Restaurants do not have to do temperature checks for their, they want to, that's fine. If the hotel does it, that's great. Let's see, was there another part of that? Again, if you're a hotel that's gold standard and you own the restaurant, you're covered under that. But we know that there are a lot of hotels that are leasing space to restaurants. So the restaurant is separate, right? It's a separate business. You're gonna probably have to have certification as a restaurant, right? Because you're not regulated under the BTB guidelines. I have a question here. Would the same apply for tour operators who is already gold standard certified and owns a restaurant on operational site? Unfortunately, so that scenario is very interesting. We have a tour operator. He sent me a private message and he says, you know, I have a tour operator business and I also have a restaurant, right? So his office, I imagine, you know, your office is right there at the restaurant. That's really, really cool. Unfortunately, with the tour operator training, it did not include restaurant certification. So it would not be covered under your tour operator gold standard. What you do have is a foundational advantage in terms of getting it. So I would recommend you getting your gold standard certification for your restaurant as well. And put those signs up on the wall that you're a gold standard tour operator, you're a gold standard restaurant. I hope that answers your question. Do all customers need to log upon arrival, temperature checks, etc.? You need to log who were there. And the scene, I think I answered that question. Did I answer that question already? Yeah, I did. There's another one here. These are helpful things. Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. Does a small shack with mainly takeout and only a few seating spots have to log seating? Does this need to include their full names and accommodations? How about people from the village, their address? I think you just need to know who was sitting in what's, even if you have one table and the rest of your business is takeout. You know, Jim and, you know, his date sits down at that table. Jim Scott's there at 10:30 in the morning. He sat there and, you know, next person, you clean it, next person sits down. Yeah, you should log it. It's part of the standard. And especially in a restaurant situation, not only as part of your own organizational setup and an SOP, a standard operating procedure in the restaurant business, but it's also going to help public health in small restaurants that are closed for maybe doing contact tracing. And I'll give you a scientific thing that I read, and it has to do with restaurants, right? There's a restaurant and there's three tables on this side of the room. There is a fan or a natural breeze, because international public health people measure this stuff, and there's a natural flow of breeze that moves this way, right? It moves this way. Table right here, one of the persons had COVID-19, right? And two of the people downwind of that table got COVID-19, and they traced it to that restaurant. The people that were on this side did not get it. So, you know, in an enclosed restaurant, you're there eating, you're there talking, and, you know, the art of conversation is going on, and you're there for a while. If you're downwind, yeah, you know, in a closed environment, if you're open aired and you've got fans, and it's not as likely. It's not as likely. We're lucky that most of our restaurants are open aired like that. But if it's AC'd and it's closed, you know, you may want to put in a couple extra fans. That will help reducing risk for spreading an airborne disease like COVID-19. Do you need their contact information? You know, if they're tourists, I would ask them where they're staying. Hey, you know, Jim, where are you guys staying? You know, pop up, and then you can put that down. Again, you know, it's going to be tough to track everybody down, but that is a protocol that is part of the guidelines. Do we need to log tourists, these app tracking numbers? No, you do not need to track the tourists that have those bans or have the app. You don't need to do that. If you want to do it, you know, depending on how strict you are, Enrique, you can do that. You know, you could, you know, you can do that. But you're from Maruba. Okay, you guys are already keeping track of your customers, assuming your gold standard already. So, you know, I think it's just important to know when your customers are going to eat in your restaurant. If you're taking them on tours and they're going in other restaurants, your drivers and guides will have that already. So that's kind of a different standard there, Enrique. But, you know, if your customers are already staying at your resort and they're coming into your dining room, I wouldn't worry about getting all that information. You already know them, right? Do we need to log also takeout guests? No, you don't need to log takeout guests. No. Ava, where do we find the application? It's on the, for a retreat center. Okay, I would guess that a retreat center, if there's overnight lodging, that you would have a hotel license. You would get that on the BTV website, just where you would get this. We're planning to host a 4x4, 5 days, seminars with small groups. We're not a hotel or restaurant. Yeah, if you're not a hotel or restaurant, then I don't see why you have to be certified, but it's great that you're in this class, Ava, learning more, and make sure your tables are socially spaced, and unless people are cohabitating, you know, if you're there with your significant other, your partner, they can be together, you know, if otherwise you should socially space them and keep everybody safe, and make sure you have a heightened degree of sanitization, people using your tables or sharing markers if you're using easel boards and stuff like that. Put in place some of the protocols, you know, hand sanitizers and stuff like that. Is my vehicle covered under my gold standard hotel license? Is your vehicle covered? A hotel vehicle that was registered as a hotel vehicle, then it probably is. But that would have had to have been in your hotel plan for gold standard application. But if it's your personal vehicle, then no, it's not. What you do in your personal vehicle should be what you've learned on these webinars, whether it's hotel or tour operator. You know, my vehicle has hand sanitizer, my vehicle has a disinfectant, my vehicle has baby wipes that I've kind of hacked and put alcohol in a Ziploc, and I use those as well. You get stopped at a checkpoint and the police officer has to hold your driver's license. And a lot of the police officers are wearing gloves now. Those gloves are dirty. I will make sure that I have my baby wipe ready or my hand sanitizer, and I'll clean my driver's license and my hands, and I'll put it back somewhere. I no longer keep my driver's license in my wallet. I keep it on the visor for the simple reason that I don't have to reach into my wallet and pull it out or put it back in when I'm driving. So there's certain things that we should adapt to with this new standard. I'm not sure, where do I find the application? Okay, there is no application. My vehicle, doesn't matter what type of seating you have in the restaurant. The San Pedro police was forcing restaurants to close off their bar seating section. Is it in the SI? Marisha, it is recommended that if you have a bar, especially a belly up bar, unless it's a wide bar, right? Think about that bartender behind the bar. Now, some bars I have seen, they have their bar stools spaced out. But again, if a couple comes in and sits at your bar and you do have a wide enough bar, and then the work area of your bartender, give him or her a nice 6 feet distance, with the exception of maybe reaching over and serving a drink or food. I think you're going to be safe, but I don't think that you have to close your bar down. Couples can be seated together, right? But again, if you have a narrow bar and you're not maintaining that 6 feet for your bartender, and they're eating and they're talking, it's not a safe environment in a bar-like setting. You know, and you could say, oh, well, the waiter's at the table, but the waiter's not there all the time. The bartender is. So there is a difference. The waiter is coming and going and not spending too much time, therefore minimizing the risk spread. Because, and secondly, you know, they do have a mask. So I think there is greater risk for a bartender if you don't have a large bar that can socially distance, especially a packed bar. But you know, definitely the bar stools that are all around the bar now, you need to minimize those. But have them on reserve for couples who may want to sit at the bar. Or if you have the kind of bar where people, or restaurant where people need to wait for a table, you know, bar may be a great pace. And what you could do is you could ask them to face one another. So they're seated together because they're a couple or they're friends, and or they live together or whatever. But you know, if you're not living together, you shouldn't be sitting next to one another like that anyways, especially with no mask, right? You should have a nice table and spaced out if you're, you know, doing it the right way. BTV has posted some links there that you can see. There we go. The truck stop can accommodate over 100 people, even with socials. Do we have to log customers? You should. Yeah, you should. That is the protocol, and I think a lot of that has to do with public health regulations during COVID-19 right now. That is a part of the requirement in the gold standard. Now, you know, if you have a waiter that's, you know, going to the table, you could start right there with, you know, putting the name on the chip, and, you know, having a system of where everybody's sitting. Any registered vehicle under, okay, retreat center, would most likely apply for destination gold standard. There isn't a destination gold standard per se. cats. Don't I don't know about that. Yeah. Is BTB getting involved in monitoring the restaurants operating independent outside accommodations? Right now, Marta, I don't think so. But eventually, gold standard will be a new standard for our hotels and for our tour operators, and will be mandatory to operate. I would assume that if we want to maintain gold standard in the restaurant, in our industry, food and beverage, that they, may be a requirement. I don't know. The thing is, right now, it's not a requirement. I just think that BTB is they're not going to be recommending any of our restaurants that aren't. They're going to be publicizing, well, they have already, that gold standard has been a national initiative. And I think, especially for visitors and locals who are kind of in tune with our new industry standards, that they're going to see that. And I think right now, more than ever, it's a huge benefit for us to be gold standard, and of course, follow the protocols and the guidelines. Whether it's local business or whether it's foreign business, they are going to be more critical of us. It is so important now for all of us to kind of be firing on the same cylinders here, in terms of our protocols, in terms of our look, wearing our mask. I was in a restaurant just the other night and had a lovely experience. We had a big table, we were all socially spaced, just a couple friends, and we had two waiters, and they both wore masks. They were both very engaging. They kept a space, but one of them had the mask on their chin, and the other one was just perfect. He had it dialed. But it was excellent service all the way around. But I told the owner came over, said hi to us, and I never met them before, and I sent them an email. This is the experience I had. I'm only trying to help. We had a great food, we had great drinks, great company. It was a super location. It wasn't anything fancy. You step off the deck and you're in the sand. But this is the message you're sending. You have this one staff member who followed protocols to a T, highly trained professional. And I knew the waiter. I know the guy. And he's had great training, but he obviously has had the gold standard training as well. And then you had another employee, who was wearing their mask on their chin the whole night, And, lovely person and a great service, but you're sending the wrong message. How can you be half-half? How can you have one person who is just so different than the other? And that's the kind of thing that we need to make sure in our industry, that we follow through. We all need to be excellent, like that one waiter. And the waiter that wore the mask on the chin was a good waiter, was good. She was excellent, but she was sending a message like she wasn't respecting my space and talking to me without a mask, so to speak, right? And I was kind of like, wow, this is kind of funny, how one person is following the protocol, and of course I watched how they cleaned the chairs when other people left. They did everything so well, but that bloody mask threw it all off. Not that it spoiled the night, but those are the things that we have to look out for, that everybody is following through with the protocols. And if we're sending that message, your customers are going to feel safer, right? Hi, BTB, is there a way you can provide a link for the tour operators and how to complete your tour operators gold standard application? There was training on that, Cynthia. So you can get the videos online, and we did an extra session just to fill out the application for tour operators. And Varsha from BTB helped me with that one. So that was a really good session. and they've had some other sessions like that. So if you go to the BTB website, but BTB team, they want the link for the tour operators videos and application. As you're saying, staff buy-in can be very challenging. Will you be talking at all about tips when it comes to staff trainings? Well, yeah, I guess we can and we will. I think our team, one, you need to follow, these trainings. If Joanna, if you can get them involved in the other trainings, have them register for this afternoon or for tomorrow. And at the very least, if they're not there yet, have them go on the BTB website, stay engaged and wait for them to put it, and then you can have them see it. But yeah, we can talk more about how important it is for all of us to be sending the same message. And I think maybe a more uptight person would have, could have complained having a waiter talking to them at a table and not properly wearing their mask, right? And we've seen it, wherever you live, you've seen it. People walking around with their mask on their chin or below their nose, they're basically saying they don't give a shit, they don't care. And we need to make sure they do care. And we need to instill in them the value that, Belize isn't getting any better right now. And we need to protect ourselves and we need to protect our clients. And, when it comes to a professional setting, whether you're the restaurant with one table or whether you're the restaurant, like somebody said, the drugstore, 150 people, socially distanced, that's a lot of space, right? But we've got to be so dialed that our customers feel that we respect them, and those masks, like if I tried to speak for an hour with this mask, it keeps dropping down. So whenever I'm in a public setting, I use the N95 mask and I can talk for hours with this mask. And because I'm talking and having a better quality mask when I'm talking, it's showing respect to the people that I'm with. So if I'm in a room in a meeting, we may be socially spaced, but I'm going to wear that mask, right? So there are certain things that we can do to assure that respect for our clients, and moving forward and making sure our staff understand that. Those masks that you talk and they start dropping down below your nose, they're really worthless. They're really worthless. So we've got to make sure that we do it the right way. Is there any protocol when it comes to money? We're going to get into that later on, but whenever you're handling money, and it's unavoidable in a lot of our businesses, it's unavoidable, we need to make sure that that money goes into a box that's not going to be touched much. And if you do handle money, touch money, you got to sanitize. In a public health sense, the spread of diseases is very well known, and COVID-19 is no different. Money is dirty. You should have a special place for money, and maybe having two little boxes, a box where the money's been sanitized, where you get your change, and a box where you're putting the money that just came in. There are ideas like that, but money's pretty resilient. You can sanitize it with most sanitizers. I don't know if I would use bleach on it, but most things can sanitize it, and it doesn't distort money very well. So yeah, and you should make sure you're sanitizing your hand if you're touching it. Would anyone else like a seminar on communicating this with staff, being allowed to enforce? Is it legally? Listen, if a staff member is not wearing a mask correctly, that's an illegal, that's an offense. And I think you need to take it really, really serious, and you need to make sure that the staff are taking it serious. Lorena, I'm a restaurant owner and trainer, and I don't agree that people are not caring is always the case. I agree. We forget that these new protocols are all new to us, And so training is important. Thank you so much, Lorena. You're absolutely right. We need to train, create new habits, let them know, and provide the right tools for them. You know, providing the right tools, making sure they have the proper mask for them. Thank you very much. If I gave the message that, you know, that they didn't care, you know, I apologize, but some people just don't know. And therefore they have to, you know, we have to build new habits and reinforce it with great training. So thank you. I work in a restaurant and is a third party at a resort, and they didn't participate with applying for gold standard application. The resort now is gold standard, but do the restaurants? Yes. If you're not a part of the resort and you weren't a part of the gold standard certification, then you would need to get a private gold standard for your restaurant. Yeah. When I need a shuttle bus driver to pick up people from the airport, he would need a gold standard as well. Yes, we would hope so. Can you ask your staff to follow protocols outside of work? And if you, it's just moving work. And if you know they are not, can you let them go? Oh, wow, Jacqueline, that's a tough question. You know, if you know they're not following, if they're not following protocols, I think what you should probably do is invest in them with training. And then knowing that, you know, if they're going to parties and, you know, they're doing things like that, that they're putting you at risk, I think you need to make sure you follow normal procedures with speaking to your staff, documenting, you know, the discussion and that kind of thing. If you feel that your staff member is putting you at risk, I think after, you know, a few warnings, you could probably let them go. You know, if you feel that your health and safety is compromised by their actions, yeah, I think you could. I would document everything. You know, if they're posting this party and that party on Facebook, and you know, you take those screenshots and you document it, do it the right way. You know, give them the benefit of the doubt and say, you know, you can't do this. You're putting us at risk, right? Since restaurants are currently allowed to be open, what's the timing to getting gold standard certified? Well, I think you need to judge that based on this information, and you need to, you know, take your time, make sure you do, you know, your homework and put your protocols in place. Do the application. There's no time period on this. Nobody's saying you have to do it right now. What I think we're saying is that if you do it, you are going to be more successful. You are going to run a safer restaurant. You're going to have a better chance of your customers locally or foreign, whatever they are, in coming to your restaurant and feeling more comfortable. Is the approval process taking for restaurants? How long? How long is the process? The rule of thumb has been for the entire industry and gold standard certification has been a week. So once you get your application in, it takes about a week before they respond. If you're missing anything, you'll get an automated response. If you're missing anything, they will go through your application and then they'll say, hey, you know, we didn't see this. They have a checklist that will be directly related to the tomorrow morning's application discussion. I was wondering the same thing because of having an employee that came into work knowing that she may have been exposed. If, you know, we're going to go over more of the logs, but if you're asking the questions, you know, have you been around anyone who has been, you know, are you living with anyone? Or have you spent time with anyone who is known to have COVID or suspected of COVID? You know, you can deny that employee access if they have, you know, we're going to go through that checklist. Yeah, if you think that someone is suspect, you know, of having COVID, but, you know, walking down the street, if I knew somebody who had COVID, I wouldn't be worried. I would keep them at distance. I would still talk to them. We all have on our masks, but again, it would be different if you're spending intimate time or in close proximity to individuals with COVID or suspected of COVID-19. That would be the risk there if you're living in the same house. Exactly what is meant. Exactly what I meant. See, Jacqueline, I'm not sure I answered that. Jacqueline, did I? Yeah. So yeah, if you know, within the checklist for staff members, if they're not, you know, if they have, I have a loss for words. If they have practices that are a risk, and you ask them these questions and they're answering yes, you do not allow them on your property if you want to make that decision, you know. Just a question, like if I'm working by myself and I need to serve the guest and I'm the only one on shift and I'm doing cash too, what will you recommend? So if you're working by yourself, you're taking cash, you're kind of doing everything. Maybe you're making the sushi and then you stop and you go over and you take care of a customer, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. You take money, you check them out, wash your hands over and over. Thank them for their business. Have a great day, right? But making sure that you're washing your hands on a regular basis. CDC still recommends, you know, soap and water. You know, it's not always healthy to use alcohol all the time. Use alcohol when it's convenient or when it's necessary. But if you're just washing your hands, you're going to be pretty safe. I have a family business. My wife does chocolate demonstrations and offers traditional gastronomy. Will she need to be, how can she become gold standard? What requirements? Well, Martin, what I would do, if you have a business and you guys do chocolate demonstrations, obviously they're eating there. It may not necessarily be a restaurant per se, but I'm waiting for my invitation because you make chocolate. But I would fill out the application. Yeah, even if it's just you know, mama papa business, I would fill out the application. There are people who eat there, and you're preparing food, excellent food, chocolate. You know, BTV Zoom. There. 7 days, there we go. Does BTV allow guests to do community work in time like that? When you say guests, do you mean like tourists to do community work? I'm not sure about that. That was a question that came up about people coming to Belize who are doing community work. I don't see why not. I would just make sure who's ever, whether it's a church or whether it's a social group, just to make sure that they're abiding by our protocols and standards and our laws. I think they could still do community work. They should not be getting intimate with, you know, local people and in the communities, and as much local contact, reduced contact is recommended. Will there be an identified mark for a worker from BTV, so we as a worker, a customer, a person has been trained? There isn't an individual certification for gold standard, but if Douglas, let's say you're doing this training now, you're working at one restaurant, 2 weeks later you're working on another restaurant. You participated in the gold standard restaurant certification program by BTV. You didn't necessarily get certified, but I would put that on your resume that you participated in it. You understand the protocols in operating a restaurant for gold standard. And the fact that, you know, maybe on your resume, you worked for a gold standard restaurant, you know, that would be on there. But I think the fact that you're registered, you're participating, that, you know, that would be something that you would definitely mention in the interview, put on your resume. You know, let your new employers possible know. Just to confirm, restaurants that's linked to a gold standard hotel, do they apply separately? Tracy, yes. If they did not participate in the gold standard certification and the application of the gold standard for that hotel did not include the restaurant, then yes, you need to apply for an independent restaurant gold standard certification. But I do know some hotels that have outside owners of their restaurants, but they did the gold standard training together, and they submitted the application for the hotel and the restaurant together, so that they were all gold standard. But again, it really depends on that application that was submitted to BTB, if it in fact the hotel included the restaurant or not. So, you know, there are a lot of different situations where the restaurants did not participate, or the hotel said, we don't have a restaurant, right? Asking because I had to provide all the cleaning logs. Okay, well, Tracy, what I would do is I would go back to the hotelier that you work with, and I would ask them to see, you know, their application. So maybe what they did is they did include the restaurant. Now the question would be for your safety and professional standards is, did you take the gold standard workshop? You know, so take a look at that, and if you didn't, you know, this is a good opportunity for you to get back up to scratch on what they went through, but maybe they did already include you in their gold standard, but you need to speak to your hotelier. Okay, Martin, thank you too. Welcome you to visit us and dive in chocolate and enjoy traditional food with the Maya family in San Miguel. Okay, great. San Miguel, I used to live very close to you. At Copal Tree there. Thank you very much for the invitation. The application checklist and template, the same as the actual application. Well, we're going to get into that with more detail, Keila, and the application and the checklist are two different things, but they're together. And the application checklist, you want to go through that. That has to be signed. The template is the outline for the information that you need to put together for the application. But the checklist is what's going to go on record for your business. And the plan and the template's going to complement that application, right? So the template is the meat and potatoes. That's all the things, all the protocols, all the pictures, all the signage, all the log sheets and all of that. The checklist is kind of like the official document that you have this, 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 and this. It helps you go through your template to make sure you have everything, and then you file everything together, one file. But you will have to print the application because it needs your signature. It has to be signed, and then you scan it and put it with the template application and plan that you've done, right? So everything is going to be one file that you're submitting, one electronic file, and you'll send that to BTB, and on the template and application, it'll have the email address you send it to. All right. So I hope that helps you. So this afternoon, we're going to get into a little bit more detail about the process. Any other questions? And Chef Rob is going to be with us this afternoon. Thank you too. I see some thank yous. Will a certificate be given after the completion of the VTV webinars? Alyssa, there is the application that takes place, right? You'll have to log these webinars. Now, the fact that you registered on this webinar, VTV has a record that you signed up and participated, right? But you still have to log that record that you did this training. They will verify it based on the records they have for the registration of the Zoom webinar. They will verify it. And then all the information, then you have to fill out the application. Then you look at the template and you put together your gold standard plan for your restaurant. Remember, every one of our restaurants is different. Some are indoors, some are outdoors. And the plans are going to be very different for every property, right? The number of staff, the number of tables and chairs, right? Thanks, Jason. Yeah, you have to fill out the application. You have to fill out the template. You put together your gold standard plan specifically for your restaurant, right? Well, I hope this introduction helped you and laid a foundation for the next 2 trainings. We're going to get into a little bit more specifics. We talked about protocols. We're going to talk about wearing gloves. When is the appropriate time to wear gloves? I'm not a huge advocate of gloves. I just read the new recommendations of CDC. They haven't really changed. They fit all of our food handlers' standards, serve safe standards, and COVID. You really only need to wear gloves when you're doing garbage, you're doing things like that, or making sure that you're using gloves when you have food ready, eating ready food that you're handling. If you're not using utensils, you're wearing gloves when ready to eat food is being prepared, right? Otherwise, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Protect yourself, right? And make sure that the optics that our customers are seeing what we're doing, right? High visibility, they're going to pick us apart in our business, and they're gonna be critical of everything we do right now. If we touch our mask, wash our hands, right? And all of that. So good morning. I'll see you guys this afternoon, and we'll jump a little bit more in depth. Thank you all very much. Remember, again, this afternoon, we all come from a wide variety of background, experience, and education. Please feel free to share your experiences, things that you've seen with your colleagues. There's over 200 people in the room, and maybe you have a great story to tell with something that you experienced, something that you read, something that you've seen. Share it. I'm not the only instructor in this room. Some of you have great experience and great knowledge. You've been doing it your whole life. You've either been in the front of house, you've been in the back of house, you started from a dishwasher, you're now a qualified chef. Share that information and encourage the next person, right? Encourage. This is a time for positivity. Positivity is going to be shown in how we walk through this COVID-19 experience as food and beverage professionals, right? Wear a mask and wash your hands. Thanks, Patricia. Thank you all very much.